Hello, everybody. This is Dissonant Waves. We're back at you with episode 35, another 2020 albums episode. This week we got Pigs X7, Oliver Tree, and Willie Nelson. The album titles we'll get to when we get to the albums. I forgot to say them now, so I'm going to say them later. Trucks, and Ritalin are here.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting everything.
Yeah, Trix doing the classic meme of the identify as a vehicle.
The one joke.
The only joke that people have about trans people.
For all those Dissonant Wave Warhounds people, you'll know the episode where we talk about trucks previously. This is all a grand unveiling for when we do Drive-By Truckers eventually.
Yeah.
But that'll be, later on. Who knows? Episode 500.
Until then, we've got the albums that we're covering this week, and which one do we want to start off with? I'm thinking we go with I'm gonna say the worst one, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I was gonna enjoy it.
Sure, it's the weakest one. It was I did not expect to win this week at all. So we'll just go into Willie Nelson, First Rose of Spring. Willie Nelson's 70th album. His first of 2020. Who knows? There could be more.
Take up for Willie.
So
I don't know if that match sound managed to go through, but now I've got a fire in my room and I don't know how to stop it. If only I had a source of air. Actually, that's getting big. I've got to keep that fire on.
just let the whole room catch on fire and then start writing your will. It'll be like in Heaven's Gate.
Well, if you want to see my room catch on fire, come check me out on my YouTube channel, where I set my desk on fire by accident. Almost caught on fire.
What was the name of that video again?
Ali's song, and my caption for that is Ali, stop smoking.
But yeah, First Rose of Spring. There are, I believe, 3 original songs on the album. 2 were written by Willie Nelson, and the other one was written by a team of Nashville songwriters, and then the rest are covers.
So we'll get to this soon. Does anybody is it an actual thing for people to like the smell of smoke?
Yeah.
Or is my girlfriend just a psycho?
People
I enjoy it.
People like the smell of smoke. People
okay.
like the smell of mulch. So.
She likes the smell of wood burning particularly, and I just want to know, is that a thing, or am I dating a psychopath?
No, I like specific woods burning. The smell of specific woods burning. If you burn some rosewood, it smells like cigars. If you burn pine.
Alright, sweet. I won't need to sleep with one eye open then.
Yeah, I like me some
you should
bonfire
still do
smoke. Like when the bonfire gets on you and you smell like a campfire for 2 days.
When the bonfire gets on you.
The smoke, not the actual fire. Put yourself out at that point, please.
Speaking of people who are constantly on fire, back to Willie Nelson.
We'll get to Oliver Tree in a second.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't a great album or anything. I think this is just kind of mediocre, but I came into this expecting it to be kind of bad. I don't know, I wasn't thinking it was going to be Huey Lewis levels, but I didn't think I was going to enjoy any of it, but there were actually a couple moments on here I'd say were kind of nice to listen to. I wouldn't particularly go back to them, but there were fun moments. I'm the Only Hell My Mama Ever Raised is as cheesy as you can kind of get, but it's also still kind of fun. Cheesy can be quite fun, and in this case it kind of was. Again, I wouldn't go back to listening to that song, but it was still a highlight. And Love Just Laughed, I would say, was actually a good song.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the songs that Willie and his producer Buddy Cannon wrote, Blue Star and Love Just Laughed, are probably some of the more interesting ones.
Yeah, I found as the album started, it was very slow, boring, and I was just like, oh god, we're gonna get another fucking Huey Lewis. But as the album went on, it kind of became a bit more interesting. Maybe if I had listened to each one of Willie's 70 fucking albums, I would probably find the sound a bit more tired, which it probably is. I don't really think he's taken any risks on this.
No.
I mean, if the theory or whatever to call it, that he's just putting out an album a year to pay off his debts is true, then it makes sense for him not to really be taking risks, because you want to sell that fucking shit.
At the same time, though, Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I thought the album went on like for a 40-minute album. I thought it went on a bit too long. I thought like the last song, Yesterday When I Was Young, was very unnecessary, and maybe it'd fit on another album. You gotta put out more albums, Willie.
I mean, at this point, it's kind of like he just covers whatever he can cover. It's like he's covered so many songs and has had so many songs like written for, like he's written so many songs himself that you kind of just do what you want at this point, right? Like he's kind of been all over the place with his last handful of albums. Some have been mostly covers, some have been mostly original. He just kind of does what he wants.
Yeah, I think that's all the pop finds.
I mean, it's worth noting that his last album from last year, I don't even remember what it's called right now, but it won,
Ride Me Back Home?
Yeah, it won the Grammy for Best Solo Country Performance, I think.
Yeah.
So he's still capturing those Grammys, like all these years later. Which, if you want to...
he's a great artist.
Like, if you want to say, though, that's the establishment being kind to the people that have been around for so long, that's one thing to talk about. But it's not like a Huey Lewis thing where it's just like he's like that was kind of a failed project that they kind of salvaged as best they could. Where this is just like, here's the 70th Willie Nelson album.
Yeah.
And I disagree though. I think Yesterday When I Was Young was probably the highlight of the album, just for I don't even know what you call it. Like the style of that music, it's like the Frank Sinatra kind of days of like adult contemporary easy listening.
Well, I think we could probably all agree that the weakest song of this album was the opener.
Yeah, First Rose of Spring ironically is the weakest, most country-ish song on the album.
It's so boring.
Blue Star was more boring.
I thought Blue Star was more interesting in like a sonic level of like song progression, and that it wasn't like just a country song. It didn't have like the same structure as like what you think of a lot of country songs would have, like First Rose of Spring.
Fair enough. But yeah.
I mean, it's. You go first, actually.
All right. I will say I'll break out again tonight. Was where the album was like, oh, okay, this isn't terrible. This is where it kind of started selling me.
That was a Merle Haggard song originally, so that was nice to see.
Yes.
I was also interested in Don't Let the Old Man In, which I learned it's a cover from a song that was featured in the Clint Eastwood movie The Mule from a couple years ago. So, covering contemporary songs, but still finding an appropriate way to find those songs and cover them, ironically, is interesting.
Well, what I was going to say, for a man who's as old as Willie Nelson and having 70 albums out there, I mean, it's actually kind of impressive that we got what we got here. I mean, it's well produced, it's a finished album. Yes, it doesn't hit on every point, and yes, there's a lot of covers that kind of like help speed up the writing here, but still, what we get isn't terrible. And I mean, artists all have their prime eras, and then they all have their shit eras, and usually you find the prime eras in their early days and their shit eras kind of very, very much at the end of it. So, to be putting something out here which is listenable is still quite fucking impressive.
Yeah.
It's never going to be... I'm not expecting Willie Nelson to ever put out an experimental country album, although that would be great.
I mean, he did kind of found the subgenre of what's called outlaw country, which is stuff where, like, I'll Break Out Again Tonight, the idea of, like, the bad boy, cowboy, being, like, on the other side of the law is where a lot of that comes from. So in a way he was, in a way, kind of doing that subversive thing, but then that became its own kind of standard. So...
I mean, when you did the Huey Lewis one, that one, because that's the artist that I'm going to compare this to. I'm not going to compare this to Love. Love is much worse than this. I know the Huey Lewis one we also had to take into account that one wasn't finished and it kind of just had to be put out. But like the difference between those two in quality, between Willie Nelson and Huey Lewis, is huge.
Yes.
Like, I don't expect to come back to either of them. But if I did, if someone gave me the choice, if you was to Willie Nelson, it's 100% of the time going back to the Willie Nelson, which I never thought, one, that I would be forced to make that a choice, but two, that I would ever willingly listen to Willie Nelson.
Oh, Willie Nelson's great, man.
Yeah, country is not big in Australia.
Country's not...
Like,
100%
indie
sure
folk is, but like, this type of country, nah, it's never been big in Australia. We have our own type of country, which is fucking shit.
You gotta pull some Australian country out now one of these days.
Yeah.
No,
Country's
not
never really...
happening. Not happening.
It's never really been my genre, but it was like, it's that curiosity of like, we do
have that fucker who claims to be fucking country when they're absolutely not. Mr. Keith Urban, go fuck yourself.
I didn't realize he was Australian.
Yeah, I believe he is.
I've played a couple of his shitty guitars.
Yeah, you look at the fucking pictures he has. Holy shit! And he's always had that kind of well, technically he's a Kiwi, but like he's Australian. It's kind of fucking weird.
He looks like a discount fucking Billy Ray Cyrus.
Anyone here play... go ahead.
It's not to say that he's an absolutely terrible human being, but like he has that whole kind of fucking fake country persona when none of his music really is. And there's a lot of artists that do that in America as well. Taylor Swift was like one of the big ones to do that early on in her career. Was to claim that she... country. I mean, that's really flirting with the genre, though. It was still mainly pop.
Pop country is an entirely different genre. So,
I mean, you could say the Middle East was more country than Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
I'd still put Middle East as more folky, though.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't. Yeah. I only want you to be. Or what is it? What is the title?
I want that you are always happy.
That you are always happy. I really should remember that because that's my favorite album that we've listened to this year. But the way that transitions into like a light country kind of thing is still one of the most impressive things I've heard all year, and it works really well and does country better than a lot of country artists here do.
Yeah.
Like I still think there's a future in country that takes that kind of route that's more experimental and folky than what we usually get.
Oh, I mean, it's without a doubt if you ask to listen to Middle East or Willie Nelson, you're going back to the Middle East.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah. 100% of the time.
If I were to be on iTunes and it's like, okay, I'll buy one of these songs. It was probably yesterday when I was young, just for like it's kind of a throwback and kind of a like the backing track is very just easy to listen to, and his voice on there kind of complements it. So I don't know. I thought it was nice.
I'm the only hell my mama ever is probably my favorite off the album. Just because it's like it's like the classic country sound I think of, like the outlaw country with like the twangy Telecaster sound, steel guitar, and just all that.
See, I want to talk more about this album, but I simply just can't because I'm not. I didn't grow up with enough country to really compare this to. I didn't grow up with Willie Nelson playing on the radio. The only song I ever knew was On the Road Again, and that was because it was in fucking Guitar Hero.
I mean,
I only know what I know because I went to a country high school, and so I had to fucking listen to all the fucking country on the radio.
No, the greatest country song that they ever made us dance to in high school here, Cotton Eye Joe.
Which that's Swedish, people, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
Oh, fun fact. Since we're bringing up rednecks, I can bring up my obscure rednecks fact.
Sure.
I think now I'm forgetting it. The Deep Purple guitarist, well, I'm forgetting his name. Let me just Google this. But he covered a redneck song. One of the creators of the heavy metal genre, Richie Blackmore. He covered a redneck song on a solo problem. I think, if I'm remembering this correct.
I'm sure there's a vast well of songs you could do that probably aren't terrible.
Well, they have that one song, and that's about it. And then they
Fair.
made different lyrics for that song.
Fair enough. I will.
Blackmore's Night, Wish You Were Here.
I guess that's a different Wish You Were Here.
Yeah.
I was gonna say though, for Willie Nelson, I posted in the Discord chat that I On the Road Again is the only song that I really knew of his, but there was the Patsy Cline song "Crazy," which was like a hit back in the 50s, early 60s, which is an incredible track on its own. That I highly suggest. Like, it's one of those just standard. It has like the record for the most like jukebox plays or something like that. And that was like one of Willie Nelson's first hits as like a songwriter before he became his own musician. So like he has the range, he has the career. It's just that if you're not steeped into that country scene, which I was not either, you know, it's going to be a surprise. A lot of it, it's going to be just like, oh, I kind of know that song, or oh, I that's actually not bad. Yeah, like, you know, like both of you said, it's not a terrible album. It's all right. And at 87, like it's more of like a novelty. I don't know if novelty is the right word, but just like an interest of like, what does someone who's 87 have to say? How does that work out? It's like watching Clint Eastwood movies, and he's like 90 years old directing movies. It's like, what else can you do? I want to know, you know, like how long can you go?
With that, since we're kind of you go first actually.
I was just I was making a tangent. I want to see how many albums Buckethead puts out before he dies.
Oh, probably a million.
Yeah.
How many good albums though?
0.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. Since we're kind of like going around in circles here, I think we'll close off the Willie Nelson section here. Yeah, my least favorite is First Rose of Spring, the title track, the opener. When I first heard it, I'm like, oh, do I really want to fucking listen to this album? And then I'm glad I just stuck with it. I think I gave this 2 or 3 listens in total. So, like, it's not the most I've ever listened to, but the other 2 do just so much of my listening this week. So,
yeah.
My favorite is Love Just Laughed. I thought it's like that one, which is like technically the closer because I consider the last song to be a bonus track, really. It kind of is. It calls itself an encore. I'd call that a bonus track.
I mean, the original song is called like Here Encore.
Yeah, oh, maybe not then. Anyway, Love Just Laughed is my favorite.
I mean, yeah, same with me. Worst track is First Rose of Spring, but my favorite's still probably Yesterday When I Was Young, Here Encore. I thought that was like I said, the one I would go back to if I had to. But Love Just Laughed and Blue Star, not bad either.
My least favorite is probably Blue Star. I didn't really like that one. It was like a big dip, and like the first song was like, oh, okay, this is kind of what I expect, and then I'm like, oh, here we are. And the third song drug me back out of it. But then when I got to I'm the Only Hell My Mama Ever Raised, I actually, I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I associate country with. I'm really digging this song.
So, you know, that's Willie Nelson. That's Legacy Recordings. That's him. Who do you want to talk about next?
That's it's a good question here. Because it's gonna be a good fight for you two. For who takes number 1, but I am fully kind of like decided what number 1 is.
Oh, I've decided as well.
Yesterday.
I decided
as well.
I decided on the first listen of the 3 albums.
So we're going to Pigs X7?
Yeah.
I like this album. Just before Trix puts it, before Trix says anything, I'm saying, I like this album. It's kind of like, there was an album that a coworker recommended I listen to by The Sword, that this is very reminiscent of. I need to get what the title of that album was whilst I'm saying this up. Bandcamp Fridays, since they're a thing, and since this is a UK band, I am very tempted to pick up the CD on the Bandcamp Friday because, spoiler alert, I don't think this is my winner. But I still like this album quite a lot. And the Sword album that I was referring to was Warp Riders, which is it's that same kind of stoner rock, stoner metal thing that the Pigs X7 album puts up.
Wouldn't it be incredible if we all were in agreement this week? That'd be interesting.
I'm going to spoil it. I think Pigs X7 is my top album, but I want you guys to try and... I'm going to give you guys a challenge to try and convince me that Oliver Tree is better.
Well, yeah, well, I can say in one reason why I think the Oliver Tree one was better, and it's not about the quality of the tracks. It's about, I can't remember which fucking track was which of the Pigs X7, besides Reducer and New Body. And a lot of it was just a bit too samey when it came towards the end of this record. I thought Halloween Bolson went on for a little bit too long, and it was that kind of... that lack of risk towards the end of it, to try and change it up just a little, that put me saying, yeah, the Oliver Tree has just done a lot more than this has. I think Viscerals is still one of my favorite 2020s that we've done this year. I think there were some songs that I'm going to go back to on this. Like, the opener is so goddamn strong on this.
Yeah, Reducer's great.
I'm so fascinated by this because I have such a completely different opinion. Like, I think Reducer and Rubbernecker were easily the weakest tracks, and at first, it was kind of like, I think, the Willie Nelson comparison of like, this is what I imagine stoner, sludgy metal to be. Okay, here we are, this is what we're going to listen to, that's fine. I like this kind of stuff, look, I'll deal with it.
If my co-worker didn't quit the other week, I would have given them this album to listen to and see what he would have thought of it. And I guarantee he probably would have given it a lot of praise, and it deserves a lot of praise. This is, out of all the 2020 albums that we've done, there were a couple that I will go back and listen to. Weekend Run Club one being one of the strongest. Obviously, I go back to the Violent Soho if you two don't, but I also go back to the Smith Street Band. I'm going to be going back to Oliver Tree a lot, and I plan to go back to the Pigs X7. I think this one's going to stay on rotation for the rest of this year. I'll probably pick it up on the I'll definitely pick it up on the Bandcamp Friday. Whether or not I pick it up physically is a different question there.
I might pick up the vinyl on this. I enjoyed that much.
But for me, where the record really started grooving was with New Body, and I just thought New Body was really cool.
Yeah, I think we agree what the strongest track is.
Like once
when it just hit, when it hits just that like nuclear wasteland, like you're just like in the sound.
Yeah, but like New Body, Blood and Butter, World Crust, Crazy in Blood, like all the way through, I'm there with the album. All the way through. So it's not a question of me convincing you which is better, because for me, they're both pretty good. In the end, I think I just am surprised and am intrigued by Oliver Tree more. But what I wanted to say, though...
For me, it's a case of I'm probably going to come back to Pigs X7 more than I'm going to come back to Oliver.
Fair.
Yeah.
But for me, what I was going to say, though, about your point, Ritalin, is that I think the second half is the more interesting half, and how different it gets, because the songs are shorter for the most part. The songs are more, I would say, more compact and interesting than the first two. And when we get to
Crazy in Blood, I feel like it's like one of those songs which I'd probably call Crazy in Blood the weakest off this album.
Yeah, I like the middle section of Crazy in Blood, but like the beginning, where it's the Crazy in Blood.
I like that.
Like, as much as I said a bit of complaints about Halloween Bolson, I still prefer it over Crazy in Blood. But I mean, obviously, I think we're all in agreement with what the best track of this album is. Fucking New Body is incredible. I'm gonna try and keep that on my my playlist for the rest of this year and see where I put it towards the end. Now that we're getting towards the tail end of this year, in 3 months the ranking happens again.
Yeah, New Body and Hell's Teeth is also up there for me. I also really like Halloween Balsam because, unlike New Body, because they're both like the jammy long tracks of the album, where New Body is very much kind of the same thing. I think Halloween Balsam is interesting for the way it just keeps changing dynamically, and there are just parts that completely, cut to a completely different kind of thing going on that I was really struck by, and I thought was really interesting and kind of risky comparatively to the other stuff that's been going on here. Like, I think, Blood and Butter is also interesting and kind of different, and it's just like a spoken word, kind of weird, atmospheric.
Like a flavor track.
Like a flavor track. It's like not even 2 minutes long. It's just like a story thing. I was into it.
About Greg's the Baker.
Yeah, I was into it. Like, New Body, going into that, going into World Card, like, I was there. In the end.
What also is interesting just about, like, the song lengths of this as well, is that this has some of the longest songs of this whole week. Like, well, it has the 2 longest songs of this whole week. Actually, scratch that, it has the 3 longest songs of this whole week. And it's not even the longest album.
No.
No.
Shorter.
Oliver Tree is the shortest by a minute compared to Pigs X7. And, I mean, Visceral's definitely feels a lot longer than it is. But that's a thing that happens with a lot of stoner rock.
At the same time, though, I would not blame that on New Body or Halloween Volson. I thought those tracks felt appropriately length and, did not feel as long as they actually were when you listen to them. That's just, I think, overall it has an effect of this seems a lot longer than it is.
Yeah. That might just be the stoner time dilation. The stoner mathematics.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not a fast tempo that it's going at.
Oh, no.
Like, I think this album opens up so many opportunities for me now to bring in my weird stoner sludge stuff. Like, I want to dive into the Melvins. I want to dive into Harvey Milk at some point. And this kind of is like,
cool.
I think we can handle it now.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'll bring up the song that needs to be compared to that we've already covered in this podcast, and that's going to be King Gizzard's Superbug.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which was undoubtedly the most stoner rock song off Infest the Rat's Nest.
Superbug in my blood.
I actually found myself comparing Infest the Rat's Nest and Visceral's quite a lot, even though they are still 2 different sounding albums in which the King Gizzard tries to go a bit more into thrash, whilst this one stays pretty firm and stoner. And that's one of those reasons that I had those. Like, now I know Trix has come a lot more into King Gizzard kind of in the off it's not really off camera, it's more off mic, but
yeah.
Like, when I found myself comparing these 2 albums, and like I said, yeah, there is a bit of sonic difference between the 2. There's still enough there to compare them, and Infest the Rat's Nest does a lot more in a shorter period of time than Visceral's does, and I feel like that's one of the reasons I put out that complaint earlier there about how Visceral stays a bit too grounded in its one kind of direction.
Thrash and stoner metal are completely different kind of genres of metal, though.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
If you compare
but still...
Infects the Rat's Nest and Viscerals to, like, some proper metalheads, there will be fucking fighting.
Yeah, but we're not fucking proper metalheads. They can go kill themselves later. Until then, we're gonna actually properly compare like normal people here. And there is stoner rock on Infest the Rat's Nest. I mean, I've had enough people who are into this genre like listen to the album, and I call it thrash, and they'll keep calling saying, nah, it's more stoner metal than it is thrash and anything. And I think it's also kind of because it's a mixture of both. But Superbug's not the only time that Infest the Rat's Nest goes into that stoner style, so I get to kind of compare these. And yeah, Viscerals does try to stay more grounded with that, and albums are fine to stay grounded in that one genre, but when it also starts to get a bit too repetitive and samey in its style, I find myself going back to just the songs instead of the album. And maybe I'll give this album a lot more listens, and it will because this is really the only complaint I have with the album. The songs are still quality.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll come back to that, and I'll notice all these little differences that completely change my view on that. And if that happens, then it happens. I mean, that's again go with the Rat's Nest, or you just said like you claimed Back to Marker was better at the time.
I would still go back to this over King Gizzard, I think.
I think what we're finding out... I think what we're finding here is that Dominic doesn't like King Gizzard. He preferred Slift.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still excited to go back to King Gizzard and see if I can make any headway on that. I'm open to it. I do think it's funny that Pigs X7 has an album called Feed the Rats, though. Also, King of Cowards. Feed the Rats came out in loading
2017.
Yeah.
And it's 3 songs.
Yeah. Well, there's probably going to be a King Gizzard album this year, so...
They're 3 songs, but 2 of them are over 15 minutes long.
Oh, yeah. I haven't really listened to that one yet. I've listened to King of Cowards, and it's the same level of quality.
Like, I do want to listen to that. I want to see what that's all about at some point, maybe. Because we have...
Cowards?
Or Feed the Rats, I mean. Because, like, we've only done a couple out... Mostly the Rush stuff that's been, like, short amount of songs, but long length.
I just want to point out there was something that Pigs X7 does win by a mile on this week, though.
Yeah.
And that's with album art. My God, that is disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. And it's perfect for this style.
Meanwhile,
so for those who haven't seen it, it's a bunch of intestines on a pillar, and an eye and a fork in it to make it look like spaghetti and meatballs. Over a very red, smoky skyline. It's disgusting and it's beautiful.
Too.
I feel like
all yellowed over.
I feel like the Willie Nelson album art is something that a 50-year-old can mock up on Photoshop in a weekend. Comparatively,
it pretty much is. It looks like clip art with just text on it.
Yeah, so comparatively, I do think that the Pigs X7 album is quite good and interesting comparatively.
And I think they had one of the best music videos I've seen in a while.
Yeah, I unfortunately, as much as I complained about you guys not watching it last week, I did not have the chance to really stop and watch the music video.
I did not care for it personally.
It's some kind of fucked up claymation.
I'm good.
I
like
me
some
claymation. I just did not care for the video because it was exactly what I thought it was going to be, and I just did not care.
Yeah,
fair enough. I was mostly into it for the clown and all the faces melting.
Oh god!
Like that was okay. That was cool at first, but that's going based off of the sound and based off of the cover art. You don't even need it. Like it's exactly what you think it's going to be.
Fair enough. And I'll post the single art in case Riddlin has his.
And like I said,
actually, there was another artist that I want to compare Pigs X7 to, and it's due to the vocal styles of the singer in that kind of very kind of like strained shouting kind of way, and it reminded me a lot of Diarrhea Planet.
Well, that's deep cut.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, like you go back because I go back to Diarrhea Planet actually quite a lot. It's one of the favorites of the early ones that we covered, and the singer in that has that kind of same way of singing.
Last night I was in the event of trying to survive just what it was on my mind. Something like
and
that.
it's like this very kind of like harsh, kind of like strained vocal style, which I that was one of the things that I first came to mind when I was listening to the Pigs X7. I like that vocal style. I think it works well in here. Obviously, it doesn't work in every style that every genre that people try to put it on, but
no,
it works in this. It's very nice.
Yeah.
Is there much else to say, really?
Good album. Go listen.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I mean, I think it starts off stronger than it ends. I still think there's some absolute bangers on there. I'm gonna try and go back to Reducer and New Body a lot. I think those are my favorites. Crazy in Blood, not so much. Yeah. I mean, I had those little complaints about this, but this is still one of my favorite albums that were done this year. And any other week,
it would have been number one.
Yeah. Well, maybe not for Smith Street. In hindsight, maybe not for Weekend Run Club, just because I've been listening to that a lot.
Right.
part of me probably, and this sounds like probably sound like a bit of an insult to you two, but like for me, it's not. I'd probably put this at the same level as Violent Soho.
All right.
I mean,
I reckon if you told me to listen to this and to Violent Soho, I'd probably put this above Violent Soho.
Wow. Are you talking about Pigs or Oliver Tree?
Pigs.
Gotcha. So did you do favorite tracks?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just doing New Body on my favorites, and Crazy and Blood is my least favorite.
Oh yeah, so for me then, New Body is my favorite, along with Hell's Teeth, and then least favorite's Reducer and Rubbernecker.
Favorite for me, New Body. Just love when it gets into that breakdown, and it's not like the only way I can explain it is like you're in the nuclear apocalypse. And least favorite for me has got to be like just beginning and the ends of Crazy and Blood. Like I like what it does in the middle, but like just beginning and the end kind of just sour me with the track.
So, I guess we'll move on to Oliver Tree. The big surprise of the week, I would say.
Yeah, I was not expecting this album to be this good.
If you told me last week that the man who is part meme, part musician, will be my favorite album of the week, I would not believe you.
Yeah.
But from the very first track, for Me, Myself, and I was on board completely.
Me, Myself, and I is a fucking killer opening.
Yes.
So, yeah, the Oliver Tree. So, I found this guy back in early 2018, very early 2018, when I heard his single, All I Got, just before he put out his first EP. And I found myself, like, I had no idea who this person was and no interest to kind of follow, but after I kept going into the songs a bit more, I'm like, yep, I'll follow on to this guy, and I never followed him on social media or anything like that, because I didn't really have the social media to follow him on, so I didn't actually quite realize that he was advertising himself in this kind of meme way that he was doing, and I think that's kind of a good way to get into him as well, because you don't quite realize that this is this giant meme that's happening.
I had no idea it was happening at all.
Because the way that his songs are presented just aren't humorous. They're actually quite emotional at times. Like songs like Jerk, Hurt, like the final 4 songs on here, I would say are probably the most emotional moments on this whole album.
Probably.
With Jerk seeming to be completely out of spite, introspective, and I'm Gone seeming to kind of be this whole kind of like I just want to go away kind of style. Then we do have some kind of fun tracks in there in the middle with Let Me Down's kind of a bit fun with how it's done, just in the style that it's done, but it also still has emotion in its voice. Alien Boy is definitely the most kind of like poppy track on here, which is just it's kind of like a hype track. He's released Alien Boy like 3 times now, so
probably because he knows it's good.
It's his most streamed song.
Yeah. Even on oh no, Jerk is his most streamed song on YouTube.
That would be his most popular at the moment because it's coming up. And one of the biggest concerns that me and my brother, because my brother's quite an Oliver Tree fan as well, we actually saw him at a festival after party at like 1 a.m. in the morning. It was a 30-minute show, and it was fucking great.
Nice.
And we were concerned that the deep cuts of this album were going to be kind of like meh. Before it's like we didn't just want this to be, the singles are there, we listen to the singles, so that's kind of it. But the deep cuts are actually my favorite of the fucking thing. Like, 1993 and Jerk are fucking fantastic.
1993 is pretty great. The only song that let me down, I think I'm on repeat listens, because like the first time through, I was there from beginning to end. It was all really great. But the only song I found myself not liking as much on repeat listens was Cash Machine.
Really?
I just did
I really
not
like that song.
That was the song that was like, I get what you're going for, I just don't care enough.
Well, Cash Machine is like one of the kind of like fun ones, which kind of talks about this whole people only doing it for the money. Like the whole line of showing off your golden teeth, that's how you cover up your cavities, kind of being like this fuck you to like the people who like to show off their money.
But also talking about, like, you know, people who compulsively buy and buy and buy. It's like, why do you need that stuff? You know, why aren't you happy with what you have? And I get that, and that's a decent, you know, thing to write a song around. I just don't think he fully explored it or changed it up enough for me.
The only song that doesn't grow on me here is Waste My Time.
And I thought that was pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
I was messing around with the melody, and I have a little bit more respect for it, even though it's still my least favorite song. But the main melody, the that thing, uses a lot of tritones, which are like the most dissonant interval available. It was in medieval times. It was called the devil's interval.
The devil's third.
Not a third. It was it's the interval. It wasn't a third.
Yeah, I know.
But
cheap game reference.
Yeah, but they would when you were writing for the church, if you had a tritone, they would often imprison you.
That's great.
Yeah, because they thought if you sang the tritone, you could summon the devil, and so like I have a lot of respect for him for just including something like that, because it's a fun interval.
I also respect him for covering Johnny Cash's "Hurt,"
even though it's a completely different song.
That was the joke.
The Nine Inch Nails song too.
That's the part of the joke too.
And I think the only real gripe I have with this album is that sometimes the kind of concept behind the song itself is not too unique. It's somewhat safe, but everything's so well executed. Like, tell me that you don't find this album catchy.
Pretty catchy.
It's pretty catchy.
It's incredibly catchy. Like, Cash Machine has a really good chorus, I feel. Let Me Down's catchy as hell. Miracle Man's catchy as hell. Alien Boy's catchy as hell. Jerk is catchy as hell. Hurt is catchy as hell. Introspective is catchy as hell. I'm Gone is catchy as hell. That's the majority of the album right there. And that's one of the reasons I put this above Viscerals as well. Is some of these songs are just really fucking memorable.
Like, I think this, like, if you go on a curve, like, Viscerals is like a little flat for me, and then it just keeps going up. Whereas Oliver Tree is kind of like a couple decently sized mountains. Just kind of, there's a quick ramp up, there's a little bit of a dip, and it goes back up, and there's another little bit of a dip, and then it ends very strong.
I mean, you go and watch some music videos for a lot of these tracks are just weird. They're kind of like Oliver Tree just spending money however he wants to. I think Cash Machine, he does enough stunts in there. I believe he does the backflip on his jet ski.
Like, everything about Oliver Tree as a meme makes me want to hate him.
But listen to his music and you just enjoy it.
Yes, I can't hate him because his album is just so good.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest oddities right now when it comes to musicians, because you should hate this. This should be absolutely fucking trash, but it's not. He backs up his meme persona with great music, and
like
so many people would just want to back up a meme persona with meme music, but that's not what this is. This is some legitimately great pop bangers.
Like, I hate his.
I came in expecting something like Ninja Sex Party, goofy, but it's legitimately good.
Like, I hate his bowl cut. I hate, the fucking 90s fashion thing he has going on. Like, I get it. Like, he wants to be, like, ugly or something to show that you can make good music no matter who you are or something. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm getting, maybe. But, like...
Turbo persona.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to watch the videos for me. It's hard to, like, put the face to the name. But on its own, I really dig it.
Yeah.
Trying to think. So one of the first tracks that he ever, that was ever put out with him on it was Getter's Forget It.
That was one you shared,
and I
right?
think that's yeah. And that's one where he's got, like, he hasn't really got his persona kind of brought out there, so it's just Oliver Tree kind of on there. And that's one of the ones where I really think you can kind of, like, you can see the kind of emotional kind of way that he puts his vocal style into. I know it's a bit nasally, but so he puts, it's genuine emotion that he gets into his singing, and that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Now, you were telling us last week, I think, that he took down his other EPs pretty much.
Yeah, so he's taken down the EPs and just replaced them all with the singles. It's hard to tell if that's a part of his persona or if actual things. Like, there is a lot of kind of behind-the-scenes stuff that it's hard to tell if it's actually happening or if it's just another part of Oliver Tree's jokes. It's
like his scooter incident.
Yeah.
Well, the scooter one was definitely a joke. That was a staged crashing
Yeah.
of the large scooter. But, like, you go and watch his Fantano interview, and he starts claiming that he's quitting music for good, which is like, is he? Like, he's claimed that he was quitting music for good 500 times at this point. So, how true is that?
Right. I mean, with songs like "I'm Gone," I can see it, but it's hard to know. Will he come back just as Oliver Tree? Will he go into filmmaking like he says he will?
People are convinced that Little Ricky's That Are Free is just another persona of Oliver Tree because they sound very similar. It sounds like it's just a muffled version of him, honestly, on the track.
I was reading something where he said, like, Little Ricky actually only plays the violin at the end of the song. Like, he's not really featured much. Which I don't know if I believe that, but sure. Let's go with that.
So it's quite possible Little Ricky, because no one knows who the fuck he is. It's just another Oliver Tree persona.
Right.
Yeah,
And that is a genuine rumor.
I'm on the Oliver Tree subreddit, and there is a thread called Little Ricky's Year 3 series.
I am going to take a look at that right now. Dominic, take us away with some more comments, please, whilst I go search this up.
I'll just drop it.
I don't know. I think I enjoyed some of the songs that you two did not, and you two enjoyed some of the songs that I did not. So, like, I thought again and again, Waste My Time were really fucking bangers. Like, I think Waste My Time is interesting just by being the longest song on the album and still being like a regular song length at like 3 minutes and 27 seconds. And again, really catchy. But I didn't quite get the whole thing about Jerk and Hurt. Like, they're fine songs, but they were never the standouts to me. But I think that is also one of the interesting things, that you can kind of attach yourself to different parts of the album and like certain songs and not others, and the album can support all of that because the songs are quick enough, they happen fast enough that you're never really getting bogged down. It's always moving, which is kind of the real big positive, especially for a debut album where you can get really heady and, you know, get up your own ass about certain things. And he seems to not really be into that at all. Like, he's just putting out songs and they go. They really go.
Yeah.
Again.
And I think
But
I think the song that I was most excited for, because there was snippets of it released quite a bunch of times before this album dropped, with the stage kidnapping and then him just riding a scooter singing. And it's, again, one of my favorites is the song Jerk, which I think has that song needs to be longer. I rarely say a song needs to be longer, but that song needs to be fucking longer, because my god, that chorus is so fucking good.
I still want to say it's impressive, you know, opening for like Skrillex at like well, not even being like an adult yet, like being like 17 or whatever, and like opening for like Frank Ocean. Like, he's been, you know, around.
Yeah.
Like, he's achieved some level of fame. It's amazing. I've never heard of him before in a way.
Yeah.
Especially because it's like all the different things that he tries generally work out pretty well. Like, I'm not gonna go and say like his flow and his like rap is great or amazing, but it works for what he's doing.
Yeah, like Bury Me Alive is actually a really fun track to hear, and he does quite a bit of rapping on that. I think he does a bit towards the middle section of the Alien Boy as well. A couple of his earlier songs as well. He's tried a bit of rapping, like on all of that. But his rapping is not where he shines.
It's not.
It's not that. Yeah, he doesn't fall down there. He doesn't go like absolutely fucking shit when he raps. I think it's fine. Yeah, fine for what he does, but he really shines in his choruses and his hooks. I think
Yes.
those are really well written. They're catchy as hell. They're fun along to sing along to. Especially, again, like Jerk and Hurt. Those are some of my absolute favorites of just Oliver Tree's discography at this point. Let Me Down, which just happens early on, is really fucking fun. For a song that's only a minute and 51,
Yeah.
it's weird to see a single release that's less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I can see why it was a single, though. It was fun as hell.
Yeah, I mean, I adore this. I'm definitely going back to this. You're right, Me, Myself, and I is a fantastic opener. And it's not even close to my favorite off the album, which is huge praise at that point.
Yes.
So,
I just want, again,
yeah.
I'm so surprised. I'm so, like, fucking bowled over by how good this album is. It is, like, probably one of my top albums, I don't know for the entire year, but, like, for 2020 for sure.
Yeah. And, I mean, we keep saying it, but it has no right to be good. Someone with this persona shouldn't ever put out something like this. And even the album art, which is, like, for those who don't know what the album art is, it's him in his fucking outfit, is that holding a bunch of balloons while everything behind him is on fire.
Which is probably what it felt like.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fitting album art.
Yeah.
It's definitely more fitting than a Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
Also more fitting than Consumer Wasteland. But yeah, this is the thing though, is like, is this an Andy Warhol thing? Is this like a Andy Kaufman thing? Like, what is this? And I think that is the mystery that we can kind of look forward to, is that, will he drop the persona? Will he continue music? Will he not continue music and just pretend it never happened? That is what I look forward to kind of seeing, if I even bother to keep up at all.
That would have been a great time to, if we were doing that. I just want to like have it aside for a second. It would have been a great time to segue into your choice for next week.
You think so?
Talking about mysteries.
Instead, let's segue into this.
So, favorites.
The first sound effects.
Yeah, just before we go into favorites, say hello to the new sound pad feature that we have for this podcast, including that bottom this cue, a firework, which might not have come through.
Nope.
I don't know if that stream came through.
Nope.
Oh well, I'll get back to the bottom shiz.
This is the second time you've debuted the sound pad, but this is the official.
I know. I'm hoping that at least this one works. It's very patchy and it needs fixing, but we're at least getting there with the sound pad.
Yeah.
Anyway, on the topic of memes, what's my favorite and least favorite from Ugly is Beautiful? Favorite is it's either Jerk or Hurt. I'm leaning towards Jerk, just because even though it needs to be longer, what we get of that is so fucking good. Least favorite's Waste My Time.
Oh boy, my favorite.
I'll go next. So you
go
have
ahead.
some time to think.
Yeah.
My favorite has got to be Me, Myself, and I, because it's just that the opener has no right to be a perfect opener. I can't explain it. Like, it's just like, it sets the tone for the whole album, and it's a good song.
Yeah.
And least favorite, Waste My Time. The melody is kind of grating.
My favorites, Me, Myself, and I. It is, again, a perfect opening. It is already probably a song I'm going to have in heavy rotation. Least favorite, Cash Machine. Just not something I could get into over and over on repeating listening.
So, before we go into our rankings for the albums, Trix, you wanted you wanted us to do one little bit of convincing to say that the Oliver Tree was better.
Yes. Do you have any final notes on that?
Any final notes that I can put on it? Well, I've already talked about the kind of issues that I had with P67 and the, but I also had some issues with the Oliver Tree with a bit of its inconsistency of quality and stuff like that, but I think the biggest reason why the Oliver Tree is the number one still goes down. It doesn't go down into this meme person putting out an album that's better than it expected to be. And I know with Viscerals, you're going to go back to it a lot more, so this convincing may not work, but I think just the amount of risks comparing to the sound, just the bold attempt that Oliver Tree has put on with this album is kind of just the reason I'm putting it as number one. It's distinct enough, the songs are a lot more memorable, and it's catchy as hell. If that doesn't work for you, then there's nothing I can really convince you to say that the Oliver Tree is better.
Alright.
And I'll jump in there as well. I think the big thing for me is the surprise. It's just the sheer like takeoff Oliver Tree has had among all like the two of us at least. Like Callum, you've listened to him before, but just from like not knowing anything about him last week to him being so good and so convincingly like interesting in the space of a week and getting like at least two of our top spots, mine specifically being just like I never would have expected that to happen. But like he's so consistent in his songs, and combine that with like the surprise and like all the different interesting things he tries. Like I think Viscerals is very good, but Viscerals is very much its own thing, something we've seen before, and we've seen pop before as well, but we've never seen something like Oliver Tree necessarily in that space. With Viscerals, it's like that's a very good stoner sludgy album that I like, and I appreciate the sounds a lot. But this is a whole other thing. This is something different.
Now, before Trix does the that, so we'll just confirm that all of our number threes is Willie Nelson.
Yes.
Yes.
And for me and Dominic, number 2 will be Viscerals, and number 1 will be Ugly is Beautiful. So that's going to be us sorted, leaving it now only to Trix to now say, what is your number 2? What is your number 1?
You guys convinced me. Number 2 is Viscerals for me, and number 1 is Oliver Tree.
Ugly is Beautiful, unanimous winner. Hit a button, Callum. Hit the button.
Gotta pick a button here somewhere. Oh no, that's the 100 gex button.
Where's 100 gex when you need them? They're right there.
I'm gonna start going into Counter-Strike games, and like every time that somebody disses me in chat, I'm just gonna go click this.
Hey, you little piss baby.
That's as much as I can play before we get a copyright strike.
Yeah. I think that we're gonna comment on it real quick. I think that song sounds quite good, and I really appreciate it. And I think we should listen to more of it sometime in the podcast. Anyway.
Well, then one of you picks fucking 100 gex.
Eventually, we'll see. I just, if we comment on the song, it counts as fair use. So.
Yeah.
It's a very weird song. That's my comment.
It's a little piss baby of a song.
100 gex are for piss babies, and I'm a piss baby.
Okay, I want you two to do your next albums first, because mine has some setup I want to save for the end.
Alright. I'll go first.
Trix? Yeah, I was going to say Trix, go first.
I'm going to be doing the 2011 Nickelback album, Dark Horse. I'm kidding. I am kidding, of course.
I would not be surprised.
I'm going to be doing the 2010 The OC's album, or it's an EP rather, Carry On Crawler / The Dream.
Now, you said that you would have a great attempt, and this is apparently it's 2011, just taking a look at this. Now, you said you would have a great attempt with number 1 this week, unless I pulled a gold nugget out of my ass. And then I decided that I would give you a choice of 3 albums, and then you both put in that. And then I decided, you know what, actually, I'm going to pull out a gold nugget out of my ass, and I'm just going to completely say fuck you to those 3 albums. Because an artist releases an album under this name for the first time in 17 years in 2 weeks, and I was going to say our listeners might who know that, which would be none of us, no one, would know, but this wouldn't be released anyway until a month after. So I decided now for the next 2 weeks, and after this is all done, I'm going back to fully Australian for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But this is an artist that I've listened to quite a lot for the past couple of years, and I'm excited for the album as well. We haven't covered them yet, so I figured for the next 2 weeks before this album comes out, which I'll then choose that, even if it's not a 2020, kind of catch up with some of the 2 albums that are absolute highlights in the man's discography. And this one, if you haven't heard it, you're going to now hear it for the first time, is The Microphones, The Glow Part 2.
The Microphones, huh?
Yep, The Microphones.
Alright.
The classic Elephant album art.
20 songs.
I'm gonna just...
1 hour in length.
Yeah. I'm just making sure I got that. Okay. So that leaves me. So the setup for... This is going to be a little bit different. The setup for this is that I was looking up a friend who has a similar name to this artist. And instead of finding that friend, really, I found James Cherry, British singer. And I thought, oh, that's neat. I'll look him up eventually and see if he's, suitable for the podcast, whatever. Well, some time goes by. I kind of check back. I see, he's got, like, a few songs. Wikipedia mentions there's an EP somewhere. Can't find it. And I was like, okay, that's weird. That's interesting. And then I'm doing some more digging, and I find this other EP by James Cherry that is completely different and sounds nothing like the rest. And either there are 2 James Cherrys who both hail from the UK. One, I think, says Ireland, and then the rest says from somewhere else in England. Don't quite remember. And it's possible, that there's 2 different people. But there's also the possibility that someone's fucking up the marketing, and that someone's not managing this quite well, and I want to know the truth.
Is this, so are we doing the EP?
We're going to do the songs of James Cherry that are available, and so I'll post the playlist in the Spotify playlist I have created, which is pretty much a collection of singles and stuff like that. And I'm also going to post the EP that I found that is attributed to a James Cherry.
Yes, is that the one, Purity Will Prevail?
Yes, Purity Will Prevail.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I just wanted to add this to the major playlist so I can remind myself to listen to it throughout the week.
Now, the challenge I also want to pose to everyone is to A, see if you can figure anything out on your own, and we'll compare notes in next episode. B, see if you can find this dude's other EP, which Wikipedia says exists, called Blame It on Our Youth. I think he took it down, but it's still possible that there are parts of it out there.
Dear songs.
So I want to know if we can also find a way to bring that into the mix. There's the Wikipedia page I posted as well. Because if you look on iTunes, for example, iTunes has Purity Will Prevail listed with the rest of James Cherry's work. So there's a point in favor.
It might be a Tristan kind of.
It might be. I for a while I was convinced that, oh, you know what? It's just she's trying something different. Whatever. And then I listened to the EP, which is put out by a company called Corpus from Germany, which is another kind of like weird thing that it's like a company kind of fronting this and not like the actual artist.
I've seen that before though.
Yeah, I think I know what's happened, but obviously I can't make enough claims without having listened to anything yet. So I guess we'll have to wait until next week when we've got all the information we have.
Yeah, and please, for my sake, let me know your first reactions to both the playlist that I put together and then when you listen to the EP. Because this is something I want to know if I can figure it out. If we can figure it out together. and I am excited to try it out because I thought I knew the answer at least twice now, and I think I've been reconvincing myself both times that maybe it's not as what it seems. There's still more going on here.
Until then, though, this has been Dissonant Waves for the week. We'll catch you next time. Until then, I have been Ritalin. You can catch me at my website, ritalin4kids.github.io. I also have a YouTube channel where I burn my desk down. That's going to be linked in the description below. Ollie, stop smoking.
I'm Dominic. You can catch me at tiltingwindmillstudios.com, where I sometimes write things. I'll write things for other places sometimes. I'll talk about them if I can. You can also catch me on Twitter at DACICHOCKI. I do have a YouTube channel. It's not very important. It's just a bunch of game clips and whatnot and general nonsense.
I've been tricked. You can catch me on Twitter at procrastronaut_. That's like procrastinating astronaut, an underscore at the end of it. And I also have a YouTube channel where I do based.
Okay, that will do it for us. Ritalin has already muted his mic, so I'm assuming we can all say goodbye now.
Well, I just had to burp. I didn't want to do that on chat. Tricks, do not do it. I know every time I say this, you're the one who will let out a burp.
I'm holding it in.
All right, everybody.
We'll catch you next time.
Say bye, Trucks.
Bye.